Thanks for joining us for the Member xCite presentation. The Member xCite presentation is informative, interesting to the audience, and showcases the strengths of the presenter as an entrepreneur and their area of expertise. It's not a sales pitch, it's a 10-minute educational and insightful exploration into what they do. And of course, it's exciting.
Jim Comer is a communication consultant with more than 30 years of experience working with Fortune 500 companies, national associations, and professionals from a myriad of industries. He's even written jokes for Joan Rivers and a well-received monologue for the legendary Bob Hope. Well, what sets Jim apart as a coach and workshop leader is his ability to edit and sharpen your content while creating a supportive space to help bring out your individuality, develop your confidence, and hone your delivery. By focusing on both content and delivery, Jim helps his clients create and deliver powerful presentations that audiences love. Folks, please help me welcome Mr. Jim Comer.
Thank you. I became a speech coach and a speechwriter by accident. I went to New York when I was 23 to become an actor. And I got one of the best acting teachers in town. I got in his class, and it was a little scary because almost everybody else in the class had been in college actors, or they were already acting in New York. And I was new to acting. And there was this exercise we had to do called song and dance. Came from the actor's studio. We'd have to stand up in front of the class, make eye contact with each of the class members while relaxing our face and taking a song, any song, and doing it syllable by syllable while we stayed relaxed. And this terrified me. Let me show you what it looked like. Happy birthday to you. I mean, I was sweating. The sweat came down my face, through my chest, through the shirt. I was shaking like this. I was a lot like a business person who has to get up and give a speech, and they are not good speakers. But I stuck with it. And I had a good teacher, and I got better. After 2 years in the class, I started auditioning, and boy, was it competitive. There must have been 50,000 would-be actors in New York, and maybe trying out for 1,500 jobs. And it was tough. My best year as an actor, I worked 26 weeks, and I made $3,300. Now, don't look up at that number, because that figure, 3,300, put me in the top 10% of the actors' union membership in earning. Well, that would be $20,000 today. How far would that go in either Sydney or New York or Winnipeg? Not very far. So naturally, I had to do something to supplement my income. And yes, I wrote jokes. I wrote articles in the New York Times and Washington Post. I was on 7 quiz shows over a number of years, including Jeopardy. But the most important thing I did was to create a comedy act with a very talented actress. We wrote monologues and sketches, and we got on at the Improv, which was the granddaddy of all comedy clubs, still is. And we got there, and we got a manager. And the manager got our material to Lorne Michaels, who was a brand new producer at NBC. And he had a show coming up in the fall called Saturday Night Live. And Lorne really liked our materials. He called us into NBC to his office, and he told us that we were going to be writers on the show. And that the next month, he was going to be bringing all the writers together, and he would call us and tell us when to come in. Well, we were thrilled. Well, the next month went by, week after week, and we never heard from Lorne. Our manager called him, we called him, but he never called us back. He ghosted us. And in October, the show premiered. And as you all know, Saturday night became an overnight sensation, still running today, 47 years later. I thought I was going to die, but I didn't. Instead, a couple of years later, I quit acting and got a corporate writing job doing sales meetings for Avon Products in their world headquarters. And I was pretty good at it. I was good. Of course, the sales, these people were my mother times 3,000 that I was writing for, so that was easy. And then one day they asked me to write a speech for the CEO. Well, I'd never written a speech before, so I thought I'll give it a try. I made it warm and personal, got a few stories in it, and everybody liked it. And then one day they called me and said that he was going to do a little practice run for about 25 people at home office and for me to come. So I was excited to hear my speech, and I got up there and the CEO was terrible beyond belief. And I thought, oh my God, he's going to ruin my speech. So like a fool, I went up to him and I said, sir, I think you can be even better if we could rehearse a few times. And he looked at me and said, well, no one ever has asked me to rehearse before. I think it's a good idea. So I rehearsed with him 3 times and he got better, a lot better, because I was using all the things I learned in that scary acting class. And when he got up to do the speech in the Plaza Hotel, he was a big hit. He got great feedback from the audience and his fellow executives. And overnight, I was a speechwriter and a speech coach. I have been doing it ever since. I work with corporate executives, entrepreneurs, or anybody who wants to be better at doing a presentation. And I always tell them 3 major things. First, share your individuality, because individuality leads to likability, and likability leads to connection with the audience. As a speechwriter, I want the script to sound like the way you really speak. I mean, too many corporate speeches sound like they were written by a jargon machine. I mean, the human being doesn't come through at all. I mean, in real life, we don't speak formally. We don't use cliches and buzzwords and acronyms. So why would we want to do that when we get up in front of a group? As a speech coach, I wanted my clients to sound authentic. You know, we have a great example of that who's right here on this call. 2 weeks ago, Mr. Scott here gave the xCite speech, and he was terrific. He was calm and warm and likable. And in my next life, I want to sound like Scott. But in this life, I got to sound like the best of me. And you have to sound like the best of you. You know, the biggest problem for most speakers is fear. I mean, think of the people in your life. You know, people that have gotten up to speak in front of a group and disappeared. Suddenly we see this automaton who's trying to not make a mistake or please the boss or be perfect. All the good things about this person have gone. I want you or any speaker to be real. Use your real voice and body language and sense of humor. And when you do that, you won't be leaving the best of you off stage. Number 2, be clear. Clarity is essential for anybody who's giving a presentation, especially, say, an entrepreneur who's trying to pitch a product, or a business executive who's trying to get across a concept. And please do not use 50-cent words, and do not use complicated slides with teeny little words and tiny fonts. Why would you want to give your audience an eye exam? Now, one of the most important things that I can say to clients is, I don't understand. What do you mean? Because you see, I'm an average guy. And If I don't understand it, most of the audience will not understand it. But if I get it, America will get it. Australia will get it. So you don't want to ever leave the audience confused. Number 3, drive home your point by telling stories. I hate to say this, but most audiences don't remember much after a couple of days. So if you want your key points to be remembered, I want you to wrap them in stories and anecdotes, and you're going to have a much better chance of being remembered. And if these are personal stories, you not only get remembered, they know more about you. You know, for example, in the first 5 minutes of this talk, I told 3 stories about the acting class, about not getting on to Saturday Night Live, and how I got my first speech writing job. Everybody listening to me right now has got great stories to tell. You've got hundreds of stories, and they would be wonderfully in speeches if you pick the right story to connect with the right point. Just don't be afraid of sharing your own life. You know, my business model is really simple. I write and edit speeches, and I coach people on delivery. I do it in person or on Zoom. I also do presentation skills workshops for groups of 6 to 10. Often a company will bring me in. And I get the people to, we do short exercises, which are videotaped, then we play those back, go over them in class, and people make gigantic changes, real jumps in their abilities within a day or 2. I also do a keynote speech on how to be a powerful presenter. I've spoken in 25 states, Canada, and Mexico, but I have not spoken in Australia. You know, when I began this talk, I told you that I got into this work by accident, but I have stayed in it by choice. I am passionate about helping people overcome fear and nervousness and become outstanding speakers in front of any audience, anywhere. I've worked with more than 1,000 speakers in New York, Los Angeles, and Austin, and I have seen amazing transformations. They become not afraid. They actually begin to like speaking, and they become much more successful in their business. And that gives me great joy. My website is comercommunications with an S.com. You know, I really have loved this chance to speak to you. And now I'm going to turn you over to my speaking hero, Scott.
Oh my goodness. Fantastic. I don't know about you guys, but I had Jim on full screen there, and it was like he was in my office. It was fantastic. I loved it. Folks, we have an opportunity to ask a master some questions here. You know, we'll take a couple of minutes. If you do have a question, just electronically throw your hand up or wave at me, and we'll bring you in. From me, Jim, I'm really curious about any advice to stay calm, to not lose your way. How do we do that? Any tips?
The most, and I was doing it today because I rehearsed this a lot, and I never got through it all the way without making mistakes. So today, I focused on trying to give you something, to connect with you. And if you're up there trying to do something positive, give the audience something, teach them something, inspire them, entertain them, whatever it is you're trying to do, if you focus on your gift to the audience, you can't be focusing so much on how I'm coming over. Because I didn't know how I was coming over. The only face I saw was Scott's, and he smiled a few times, but I didn't see the rest of you. It's unlike being in person. When you know instantly in person, whether you've got them or not, you can see their faces and their body language. And of course, you can adapt more easily in person. But if you're focusing on how you can help the audience, it's going to be much less likely that you're going to be nervous.
Well done. Excellent. Terry.
Yeah, great presentation, Jim. And I know you haven't spoken in Australia, but I know you and I have had dinner down at Bondi Beach.
We have.
Yeah. I was going to ask, Is this applicable to salespeople or people who've got to do corporate presentations, or even, you know, face-to-face meetings with clients in a, you know, you're presenting to 4 or 5 people or something like that? Is this something that would be very handy for those people?
Yes, absolutely, because 4 or 5 people is just as scary for someone who's not comfortable in speaking as 4,000 would be. You know, most of us are not going to speak to thousands, but maybe we'll speak to 50 or 100, or maybe we're going to speak to 1 or 2, but the same things apply all the way across. You want to, you know, you want to be clear, you want to be individual, and you want to be, you know, somebody that's going to really try to solve their problems. And if I can help somebody do that, whatever the size group, it really doesn't matter.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Well, my biggest takeaway is stop trying to please the boss. So Terry, we're done. I'm going to stop worrying about that and just have some fun.
Yeah, because if you're up there to please somebody else, that's not the best reason. Find your own inner reason for being up there.
Well done. Well, one more time. Let's give it for Jim. Thank you so much, Jim.